Relax. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Welcome to Pillow Talk Radio, the most delicious place to be. On this podcast, we explore how to create more connection, possibility, romance, and magic in love and in life. I'm your host and relationship specialist, Cora Boyd. Are you with me? Hello again, Pillow Talkers. Welcome back to the podcast. On today's episode, I'm going to jam out around the necessity of clearing sludge from your past. Here's how I want you to think of it. Think of something you desire. Maybe that's love. Maybe it's confidence. Maybe it's confidence in love. Maybe it is breathtaking, live in the moment kind of adventure. Whatever it is for you, think of that desire. Now, I want you to understand that that desire is fully available to you now. And whatever is blocking you from knowing that and believing that is most likely some sludge in the pipeline from the past. Maybe it's a hairball. Maybe it's some toilet paper. Maybe it's some gross, unmentionable shit. Literally. One of the most amazing things in my work with clients is it's very personalized. So I can tell pretty quickly what the sludge blocking the person from attracting the love they want to attract and attracting all of the things that come along with the love, right? It's so much bigger than just the relationship, all of those things. I can tell pretty quickly what it is. And sometimes I'm astounded by how simple it is. How simple. So a client of mine who just got into a new relationship, which is super exciting, the sludge that we cleared in our work together, the sludge clogging the pipe, the direct line between her and her desire, was sludge from a past relationship that had not been cleared. And once we cleared that in literally one conversation, it was like this like channel was just like unblocked. Suddenly there were like all these men, right? Like they just appeared, because that's what happens, is literally what happens when we energetically unblock ourselves. So what I want to share with you guys in this episode is an experience that I had in clearing some of my own sludge and various very impactful lessons that I learned about sludge and clearing sludge in the process. Because I want to be very clear, processing and taking meaning from our experiences and our past relationships is imperative. That's what makes things mean something, is taking meaning from it, literally. It's also what builds our maturity and our sensibility and our sense of beauty and story in life, is the meaning that we take from our experiences. So when it comes to processing relationships from the past, it is important to process them to the extent that we clear the sludge, right? To make meaning to the extent that we take meaning and we can appreciate those experiences as meaningful for us. They taught us something. They expanded our world in some capacity. We learned something from it. It was a wonderful time. It was an educational time. It informed us for something else, whatever the case might be. And very often what I see a lot of people doing, and what I have certainly done in the past, is getting on this gerbil wheel of meaning making, right? Because there's a difference between taking meaning from a meaningful relationship and whipping up an enormous hairball of meaning that then clogs the freaking pathway from us to whoever we are going to experience love with next time. So this is something I say to my clients a lot that I want to impart to y'all, which is no one person holds the key to love. There is no one person who holds the key to love for you, who holds the key to the universe, right? We experience love through and with another person or people or whatever it is, but those people do not own love for us, right? So often I see people just living in this paradigm as if love is behind them and the best is behind them and the magic experience is behind them because they experienced it with someone and then that particular relationship came to some sort of conclusion, right? So what they do then is they fixate, they create the hairball of meaning, of unhelpful meaning around that relationship, which then clogs the freaking drain, clogs the pathway between them and whoever they are going to experience love with next, who is a person who exists already and is a person who wants to meet them. So what I see a lot, especially when people are not seeking out new romantic experiences, right? Especially if it's been a while and they're not participating in creating that with someone or themselves or multiple people or whatever the case might be. They think of love, they think of romance, and they only think of this one person and this one experience they had in the past, right? And as if that is like the beacon of love and the only reference point of love, because it is the only reference point. If we're not creating new reference points, if we're not experiencing and tasting different flavors of love with different people and moving forward, and we can experience multiple flavors of love with one person, right? Of course, it's going to feel like your life is behind you if you are living like your life is behind you, because then the real estate, the energetic real estate, the mental real estate, the love real estate in your life is occupied by this figure from the past. And what I learned in this experience I want to share with you is that it's beautiful, it's meaningful, and ultimately it is irrelevant, the past. So let me explain. When I was younger, I fell in love with this guy who he still is, outlandishly good looking, outlandishly, and confident and worldly and fun. We had this very exciting, glamorous love affair. And this was the first time I ever fell in love with anyone. Oh, I'm starting to giggle. I'm just remembering the feelings. We had many experiences, which to me were world expanding. I was boggled. I was just boggled with the universe and how this person surfaced into my reality. And I was boggled with these feelings I was feeling, and this butterflies when we kissed. And I was like, what? That's the stuff they talk. What is going on, right? And these trips we went on and these secrets we had, right? It was incredibly exciting. In fact, it was one of the most exciting things that had ever happened in my life. And there were some very important elements of this relationship that were not healthy. I'm not going to share exactly what, but it was really, this was my introduction into love. And ultimately, the highs were high and the lows were very low, were very, very low for me. I'm just remembering there was one experience we had together was across different timelines and different continents. And in the second chapter of the first book of our love affair, the book concludes with this encounter we had in a train station that just like shattered my existence. I'm not going to share exactly what happened, but there was something that he said that, oh my God, it's just shattered my existence. And there was this incredibly potent nonverbal communication that we had through a series of actions and looks in a train station. And then there was a very potent look that we shared that meant something very specific. And then I left without saying anything. And I sobbed in the train. I sobbed. I was like, people were staring at me. I was like, ah! Like, oh my God, it hurt. It was so intense. It was so intense. And I had, I was truly heartbroken. And I felt incredibly angry and incredibly wronged. And in retrospect, right, in many ways I was. And I can also see how I participated in that experience. And I can also see how exactly how it went was exactly how it needed to go. But I can just feel into the potency of that nonverbal encounter in this train station, and then this complete deflation of a dream. I feel things very strongly. Earlier in the relationship, we had to be separated for circumstances. And I remember I got a terrible fever. I was so upset. I got a terrible fever for days. It was so visceral. Every element of this relationship was so visceral for me on so many levels. Like, I was fucking living that experience. I was living it on every level for, the highs and the lows. So this person, who was really the first person I ever had these intense feelings for. And this whole story that we had together that was so, as I said, it was glamorous, it was sexy, it was like, oh my God, it was so exciting. It was so exciting. And then the intensity of the pain as well. I had never experienced anything like that at that point in my life. I remember conceptually how intense it was. And I also remember being in that state and making a mental note and leaving a little footprint for my future self of saying, I won't remember how devastated I feel. I won't remember the depth of this feeling of devastation. And conceptually I do, because I remember myself saying that to my future self, right? But I don't think I do. I think my past self was right. The meaning and the hairball that I wound up around this experience had many threads of questioning my self-worth and feeling not enough, not good enough. So, now, my first foray into love was not healthy. And I actually hope that's encouraging for a lot of you, because I think, a lot of people who have experienced unhealthy relationships, what happens in those contexts is you do question your sense of self-worth. You question your reality. You question your sense of what's normal, what's not, etc. And the truth is, it's not who you are. It's an experience you've had. And you can go have healthy relationships, 100%. And you can have a high self-worth, 100%. There is nothing about having experienced unhealthy relationships that tarnishes you, so long as you process, clear, and recognize that it was unhealthy and rebuild your sense of self-worth to be even stronger, which is entirely possible for you to do. So what happened was I went back to my life and country. I was very depressed. I ultimately, and pretty much single-handedly, climbed my way out of that depression. And this person who I was extremely angry at reached out to me and was wanting to talk. And I was extremely angry and I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to talk. So this person, for a handful of years, periodically reached out to me with different kinds of reparation and apologies that incensed me. I believe for 3 years, I didn't talk to this person. And then something shifted. We didn't talk a lot, but I was not as incensed with him. we had some pleasant contact, and I was able to receive the sentiment and the realness behind his regrets for how things went between us. I had fully had another relationship that really healed a lot from that first relationship, right? And that's what I want to say too for anyone listening. Relationships can be deeply healing. That's why I always say relationships are playgrounds for personal growth. If you lean into your relationship with that knowing and that openness, relationships can really heal you. So anyway, 5 years later, I'm in Europe. And because of some light, pleasant contact that I've had with this person, I know that this person is in southern Germany. And I decide that I'm going to go visit this person. I really want to emphasize here that this person shattered my heart. There is absolutely nothing that I am exaggerating about around that. Like, this person shattered my tender, young little heart in my first foray with love. So there's a lot of energetic charge around this person. So I really, really want to emphasize this, right? Like, while I had moved on with my life, I experienced different reference points of my worthiness and relationships and what relationships can be and how they can feel and mutual trust and all of these wonderful things, right? This person shattered my tender little heart. And I decided that I was going to go visit him and stay with him for a week in this small town in southern Germany, in Bavaria to be exact. The notion was outrageous. Outrageous. Like, whoever the person is in your life who is this like figure with emotional charge and so much meaning made of it, and so many times that you sifted through these different memory moments while you were laying in your bed, and like all of these times, like everything around that relationship and what it meant, and it with the potency also of it being your, maybe your first experience, whoever that person is to you at the time, this person was that person to me. So the notion that I was going to go stay with him by myself for a week in a small Bavarian town was outrageous. And I knew intuitively and on every level that that was the thing I needed to do. I was very compelled. I was very curious. I was really interested to see what would feel different, what would feel the same, who I would be in interfacing with this person as I was then, not as the person he knew. I was hopeful that I would be able to rewrite some history and experience this litmus test or this reference point of my own growth. Part of me was hopeful, right? A small part of me. And when I say small, I don't mean like insignificant. I mean like a piece of me, like a younger version of myself, right? A smaller, younger version of myself who was maybe more innocent. That version of myself was hopeful that there would be some sort of continuation of our incendiary, glamorous, exciting love affair. And I was simultaneously terrified of that possibility. I was terrified of shrinking into a former self in his presence. I was terrified that the unequal power dynamic that had played out between us would play out again, and I would crumble into the smallness I had felt before, but even worse, because it would be a second time. I was terrified. So I had been in Berlin. I took a bus, a Main Fernbus, if there are any Germans listening. I took a Main Fernbus down to Munich. And I actually, oh my God, I forgot about this part. Oh my God, I forgot about this part. This was so intense. I literally stayed with his family in Munich for a night. And I slept in his room and there were pictures of him everywhere. Oh my God, it was so intense because I didn't know who this person was anymore. It had been 5 years. I didn't know who this person was anymore. And there was so much charge. And to be in this house surrounded by these pictures of him over the last 5 years and pictures I had never seen before, I felt like I was like at a museum dedicated to this person. It was a very strange experience. That day, I got lunch with a friend in Munich. I was so nervous. I had no idea what I was walking into, and the stakes were very, very high for me. But I just felt that I trusted myself and that there was something in this that I needed to do, and I wanted to know, and I was curious. So I was at lunch and I drank one of those big Oktoberfest beers, you know, those huge beers really quickly because I was really nervous. And then I remember I got on the bus, the Main Fern bus, and we're like zooming down the Ottoman highway, and I'm kind of drunk. I'm kind of like day drunk. And I have this like enormous beer sloshing around in my tummy as I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm going into. So I get there to this small town that he's living in, and he is waiting for me at the bus station. So what happened that week was one of the most amazing things. We ended up spending this week. Actually, I think I ended up staying for 2 weeks. I think ultimately I stayed for 2 weeks. So we ended up having the absolute best time ever on every level, entirely platonically. And that's what felt right. Like, oh my God, it was so interesting. We were just totally different people. We were both totally different people. The energy between us had neutralized. He was like, his temperament was complete. Like, I couldn't even believe that this was the same person. He was so different. He was amazing. He was incredible. And he was just still as like outlandishly handsome in like a older way. And there was just something, I just like wasn't into him romantically. It was so interesting. So we ended up spending this time. It was this like beautiful, idyllic little Bavarian town on the shared lake with Austria and Switzerland. So we had this extremely bucolic time where we just picked vegetables from his vegetable garden and made these delicious dinners and skinny dipped under the full, like the moonlight in this beautiful lake every night, and like milked cows and biked around and had incredibly stimulating conversations and listened to his Devendra Banhart records and like all this. Oh, it was just, we just had the best time. And the best part was one of my best friends, Hannah, who you have all met because she was one of the support coaches for the last 2 rounds of the Love School. She had been at like a techno festival, which is hilarious if you know Hannah. She had been at some techno festival, but I actually told her I had told her prior because we were traveling together. I had told her, hey, I need to go do this thing. Like, this is totally outrageous. I'm terrified and I have no idea what to expect, but like, I need to go to this like small town. So we parted ways for a bit and we were going to link up somewhere else later, but I actually was having such a great time that I told her, hey, you have to come here. I need you to meet each other, because I still felt like this person was so important to me and was a person who in many ways I was very deeply connected with, right? And so this person was someone that Hannah obviously had heard a lot about because of the strength of his mythology and my romantic landscape. So it was so amazing to have Hannah come, because they also loved each other. And the three of us just had this absolutely rip-roaring time. We stayed like way longer than we were expecting. It was such a profound experience for me. I released a lot of sludge that didn't even need to be there in the first place. I learned so much about how much people can change and how much people can change for the better. I learned so much about forgiveness. I learned so much about the value of following your intuition, even when it doesn't make, quote, sense, logical sense. I learned so much about how important it is to give other people the grace to change. And that as we do that, it is also so important to give ourselves the grace to change. It is so important. I really rewrote history for myself. My personal history shifted. My perception of what that experience with him had been and what it meant about me and what it meant about life and what it meant about love, right? That loosened up, that hairball just loosened up and dissolved. And it really got me thinking. I realized how much I had held on to certain beliefs or understandings or concepts of myself or concepts of XYZ things because of my perception of what a certain experience that I had had meant about everything. And what I realized through the second book and the reconnection was that we just let the past and the meaning and the hairballs we make of the past hold so much power over us, when the reality is, yes, it's meaningful because it happened and because your life is meaningful, but it doesn't really mean dick. I started to reflect on, okay, if this person who I now just feel this goodwill and like love towards, and I feel so much clarity around everything. Like if I hadn't come to this small Bavarian town, day drunk down the Autobahn highway, not knowing what the fuck I was walking into, I would still be holding a truth that wasn't even real, wasn't doing me any favors, was holding energy and stagnancy in certain ways for me. And if that was the case here, where is that the case in so many other aspects of our life and how we relate to our history? I also came to understand that it ain't over till it's over. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the truth takes time to reveal itself. It was such a beautiful experience for me. And it was so life affirming. It was so confidence building, right? Like I was so wowed with myself that I had just done that, and that look what was on the other side of me doing that thing that was literally felt on a certain level like I was walking into the lion's den. And I was so happy to have a relationship with myself where I trusted myself to show up for me and to navigate whatever happened. The interesting thing is that there's not charge around this person. There's a lot of love towards this person, and we're still connected platonically and like this dope friendship, right? Like, who would have thought? I learned a lot about allowing things to be what they are and trusting the flow of life and being open to everything being rewritten for the better. And this is how I cleared that particular hairball in my life. The letting go of the anger, the letting go of what it all had meant, the letting go of the ideas of blah, 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 and blah, 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 and all these stories we tell ourselves. It was humbling. It was energizing. It was really amazing. I think this is a pretty good example of, we do something you're scared to do, and our brains love to default to what's the worst that could happen, but like literally what's the best that could happen. So take from that what you will. I hope that you take some curiosity around what might be possible for you to clear, what might be possible for you to rewrite, and what's the best that can happen. So as you know, Magnetics Love School, my 3-month program, is open for early bird enrollment. In those 3 months, we go through something very exceptional together. We go through a big transformation together. And I curate a learning experience that is fun and dynamic and engaging for a group of women. And hairballs get cleared, bold actions get taken, beliefs shift, and reality shifts with it. And it's pretty fucking awesome. So if you are a single woman who dates men and you're ready to upgrade your confidence, magnetism, and skills in the romantic arena of life, it would be my pleasure to teach you everything I know about love that we can fit into 3 months. So to apply, you can go to coraboydcoaching.com/magnetics and submit your application. If you have any questions, you can DM me or email my team, hello@coraboydcoaching.com. And I'm going to go finish eating some crumpets, hoping you are well and excited for any hairballs that need to be cleared in your life to be cleared. Good night and good luck. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Pillow Talk Radio. I'm Cora Boyd, and make sure to subscribe so we can keep you in the loop. In the interim, you can find me on Instagram at @TheCoraBoyd, YouTube Cora Boyd, website coraboydcoaching.com. Have an excellent rest of your day, night, morning, evening, whatever it is, wherever you are, and we'll catch you next week.